Hello. Today I would like to talk about a very, very specific niche. It's the travel retail. And when I got the call I was asked to talk about it, I thought, are they still existing? I wasn't quite sure if their travel agents in the physical brick-and-mortar store are still existing. And so I just went through a lot of research and looked into the future of what is actually happening there. And to just blurt it out straight from the beginning, it's actually amazing what the potential is for travel retail. So the question I was posed was, is there actually a chance for the travel retail, and what can we do with all the pressure we have from the digital and e-commerce sector? So first of all, let's talk about what the media is talking about all the time. It's called the retail apocalypse. And I mean, it sounds mighty, and it is actually mighty. So if you look into America, there are actually huge businesses closing down, collapsing within months. Toys R Us is actually just closed 150 stores across the UK in order to prevent themselves from bankruptcy. So the whole retail market has a lot of rupture at the moment, and the end is not actually reachable. And a lot of people say, okay, it's a part of the natural evolutionary process, and actually in the end, it's much, much more what's happening here. So to understand why we have all this disruption and diffraction at the moment, you have to understand that everybody is at the moment pointing at e-commerce and says, if everybody shops online, no wonder that we do not need the brick-and-mortar stores anymore. But that is only a very small part of the truth at the moment. If we look at the online thing, we have to understand why people actually buy online all the time. And that's very easy to understand. First of all, everything that can be digitalized will be digitalized. And if you look at what's digital, then it's very obvious that people buy services. So music and booking and streaming, in nature they are digital services. So why do we need physical stores if it's so much easier to do that online? Especially, you do not have to travel, you do not have to look for parking spaces. It's very, very easy to shop online. But then always the killer argument is, but what about the schnitzel? Will that be digital? How do we do that? And I said, look at that, is this already digital? Because every good on the planet we can ship has a logistic IP, and that means we ship it. And the schnitzel doesn't mind if it just arrives at my place or at the Rewe or the next grocery store. It's just because the logistic is developed so amazingly that we can ship it everywhere. And if we have the 1 hour shipping, even that is very crucial and especially dangerous for the brick-and-mortar stores. So the second thing we have to understand about retail is actually that we use two different words for buying and shopping. Buying always means we have a demand that we need to fulfill. And that means if I need eggs, milk, sugar, if I need a certain jumper, and I exactly know what I need, this is buying. And buying will be only digital in the future. It is already digital, but it will be completely digital. If you talk about shopping, it's a completely different story. Shopping means I have time, and I don't know what to do with my time. And if I know how much time I have, like half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, that means I decide on what I'm going to do. So for half an hour, I just go around with the dog. With 2 hours, I'm willing to travel 10 minutes to go somewhere. With 6 hours, I'm willing to travel an hour in order to spend 6 good hours somewhere. So if we talk about shopping, we're talking about experience. And the crucial part about this is we're talking always about leisure. And that is something that's extremely relevant for the retail. So the same media always talking about the retail apocalypse, they already giving a solution to the retail apocalypse. They say everything needs to be an experience. So, but how do we do that experience, and what is experience anyway, and why is it so relevant all of a sudden to create experiences? As we heard earlier on, it's all about the new customers. They're actually not that new. If you talk about the millennials, they're actually, back then we called them hedonists, and back then they even had different names. It's a special hedonistic approach, but now with the millennials we have the phenomenon that there are loads and loads of those people who have the same needs. And if you look into the studies, the millennials, they choose experience over everything. It's, as we heard before, it's not about cars, and it's not about luxury, it's not about the very status symbols we always used to have. It's about having an experience, having a good time. And it's investing time more than investing money. That's also very crucial in the future for retail. And also, it's always this being connected and having the fear of missing something out. And what's also very important, not only for the millennials, but for a lot of people, is that they prefer actually relevant services more than buying and purchasing stuff. Because stuff weighs you down, and services, they enhance you and they motivate you. And that's something a lot of services evolved around this issue. So the good news are, we're working in an amazing industry, the experience industry, because it's growing and growing and growing. And also the experience you can't download. We have like virtual reality, augmented reality, and their experiences too. But still, you can't just download it. You need all the gadgets. And also around this industry will evolve a lot of staging and dramaturgy and retail formats. So why at the moment is Netflix and Co. so relevant and, for example, so amazingly performant? Because they're extremely customer-centric. And that makes them very strong. And how can we transform this customer-centric approach to the physical retail? So how do we be relevant? To be relevant, we really have to understand a second bridge as well, which is the new luxury, and we heard about this as well. Because luxury is not only about having great stuff, but it is also a complete different approach to the luxury. It's a lot about myself. How can I enhance myself? How can I just build my own brand? And what do I need for this? Through services. And if you look at the Dolce & Gabbana campaign, it just has completely changed over the last couple of years, and you can really see the evolutionary steps of luxury just by looking at Dolce & Gabbana campaigns. And the last campaign was actually shot in Berlin, and you really have to know about the brand in order to decipher the value of those clothes and the brand in itself. So with this approach of traveling and services and the luxury, also there is another kind of segment popping up in the travel industry. And we're working for a suitcase manufacturer in the luxury part, and it is about how to make that even more intelligent, how to fit exactly those kind of things to the lifestyle of the millennials. And as well, to this, the whole architecture is responding. The way we design destinations, how we create spaces, is evolving around this new luxury. This is a not very new concept, the late-night chameleon cafe, but it shows exactly the way the retail is developing. It's about personality, it's about highly curated offers. And for example, this concept store, you can only go there by appointment. You can just not walk in. But then you have this amazing space just to yourself and to a lot of people who can actually consult you very well about the different brands, about the attitude that's behind those brands. And it's about education. If you have heard the Singularity University, it's a university just made for CEOs to tell them about the disruptive process, about the future, about how everything is speeding up at the moment, and how actually to deal with those disruptive processes. And if you want to be part of the Singularity University, you have to kind of pay $20,000 to have an executive course and learn about disruption. Also, it's this whole mixing and blending of low-key experiences and a high-key approach, and we see those beautiful bell tents everywhere. Also, a big desire that we have at the moment, and we heard about this. It's this backward architecture we're dealing with, the Soho style. Everything looks like Laura Ashley has designed it in a kind of shabby chic look. Also, this kind of having something solid that has a narrative texture, that the architecture is not just streamlined architecture, but it's layered with a lot of information, and you just sit there and you can see the story, the history, and the details that have been included, and also the delicacy of the design. And also, it's not only about group experiences. Contiki is, for example, something that you do on your own. So for every trend, you have a counter trend, and if you're constantly connected through mobile phones and through everything, to your networks, to your peer groups, this is something you choose to have me time, to be on your own, which is probably the ultimate challenge for people who are just move in peers and groups. This one I really love. It's the Null-Star Hotel, which was labeled as the most successful hotel in the world, because their booking capacity is 100%, and they're booked out for the next 4 years. All they have is one double bed in the Alps, and it's nearly 300 Schweizer Franken you pay, and then that's it. You have a safe, you can lock your stuff away, and you have service. That people come up with a backpack, and then they cater you there, and that's it. So the only star is you and the stars above your head. So that's probably the most radical form of combining luxury and nothingness. So, but also, like Airbnb, you can see they found this market of luxury, and they're targeting now the luxury market with a Airbnb Plus segment. Funnily enough, I just read an article that Airbnb is actually not harming the hotel industry, but the immobilian sector, that wherever Airbnbs pop up, the rent will go up in the neighborhood. So this is also a disruptive process, but nobody thought that it will actually disrupt something completely different than the hotel sector. So if you look at all this, the most crucial point is time is the new currency. It's not money. Especially if you transfer that from the luxury segment. You have so many people now on the planet who have no issue with money, only with lifetime. And if they want to decide what to do, they always decide, well, where do I invest this 30 minutes of my precious life that's so limited on this planet? Because if they first decide to do kind of 1 hour on a yacht, that will define the money they spend. It could be 60,000, it can be 200,000, it's not relevant. It's how much life value do I get out of this half an hour or 20 minutes or this hour that I invest into something. But it's not only the luxury, it's also the millennials and the hedonistic people very much think the same. So we have this effect of investing lifetime, not only in the luxury market, but nearly everywhere where we have a premium market. So if we look at the retail again, retail means mostly we want to sell something. And that is actually also the KPI the retailers have is revenue per square meter. That's how they measure it. There might be another measurement that says how many people do come through the door and how much revenue I get at the cash desk, and they can correlate this. But that's all. So there are only 3 KPIs for the retail sector. And then, if you're lucky as a customer and you go in, they actually think of entertaining. You get glass of champagne or something, and then that's it. But we have to flip that in our mind. We have actually to think of, firstly, we have to entertain those people who are still willing to come to a brick and mortar store, and then if they're very happy about what we're doing, they buy something. And there are already very good examples, and I think probably some of you know it's Karl's Erlebniswelt. Karl's Erlebniswelt is actually a farmer's market in the very north of Germany. And he started with a strawberry farm, and the strawberry farm, like you have with a little stall and a few cakes and coffee and stuff. Now he has strawberry farm or villages around the north of Germany, and he offers a free experience based around the farms and strawberries and food and so on, but he actually lives off 8,000 square meters of retail space. And most of the stuff he sells is actually his own goods. He has manufacturers, he manufactures marmalade and bread, he has organic coffee, he has like candies and sweets and so on and so forth. So it's a massive experience if you go there. He would never call himself a retailer, because he said, I'm from the experience, I'm from the leisure industry, I have a park. But actually, he does generate no money from the park. He just generates all the money from the retail and the experience he sells. So, and if you're thinking about how much time do I have, then you all of a sudden see everybody is a competitor. If you sit in the morning, at Saturday morning at the table, and you just talk with your friends or with the family, and then they say, I'd like to go to the zoo the next Saturday. No, I want to go shopping the next Sunday. No, let's go to the travel agents. Oh, la, la, la. All competitors. It's not one shoe manufacturer is competing against another shoe manufacturer, or the fashion brand against another fashion brand. It's just everything is a competitor for time slots. So, and that's why the retail already reacted like the way it is. They, for example, this Wheelie is a mobile store. You actually have an app, and you just call, and you say, I need this and this and this, and then you click on the app, and then this thing is an autonomous driving vehicle, and it just rolls in front of your door, and then you can go and shop. At the moment, it's working okay, it's not really profitable, but this is just how it will be in the future, very much so. The demand and the products will come to you if you need them. Also, for example, London and the Selfridge store at Selfridges, they have a quiet space. That's the way they deal with the precious times. Clients are willing to invest to go there. So they offer this experience where you actually have a Zen moment at Selfridges in a very busy and noisy environment. Or you just go to Le Bon Marché in Paris, and they not only have massive installations, but they also have so many services, all just pivoting around the needs of their consumers. Especially, they have no really parking spaces, so if you go there and you want to shop, you can shop with your app, like the food, and then they bring it straight to your car, and they pack it, and then, because they have a lot of elderly people, and it's too heavy for them to carry those grocery bags. And it is all about the experience. For example, this is Paper and Tea, a Berlin-based retail concept. They offer tea ceremonies. And as a customer said, we sat down for the tea ceremony, it felt as if time slowed down and could experience everything within this magical time bubble with all my senses. This just brings it down to the point. It is about this experiencing something. It is about a time bubble where you can actually decelerate and freeze those precious moments and make them rememberable. Our problem is that we can't remember what we've done even 2 hours ago. It's like all a big blur. It's like you have your fast forward control to your own life and go zap, 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 fast forward. And that means people can't remember anymore. For retail, that means that's why bookstores in museums are so popular. because people run through the museum and then just snack and consume, and then it is just so much input that they love to buy the memories to their experience and bring the book home so they can actually put that on the table. They not look at it anymore, but it is there like a memory, part of their memory that's actually physical. So what do we learn about the retail thing so far? Experience is much more relevant than possession, and that's what's going to happen even more in the future. Time is much more relevant than money. And it doesn't matter how much money you have. It starts with small budgets, already to big budgets. And the young people who are entering the work market, they're not willing actually to change money against lifetime. They just want to have relevancy, they want to have purpose and all this. So we are going to have that much more in the future. Convenience is much more relevant than choice. When we design big stores, like sneaker stores, there is a phenomenon that's called sneaker blindness. So if you have a wall with 200 sneakers, you're attracted to them, and then you stand there, you freeze, and then you can't make up your mind anymore because it's impossible to see all the options and choices. And the result is you don't buy at all. And that's, for most of the people, it's much more relevant to have a very well curated assortment, and then you buy those products than having all the choice of the world, because internet is offering that anyway. And it's about problem solving. I'm not going to a store to have more problems. I want to have my problem solved. My problem, if I buy a travel or a journey, I have 3 kids and I have little time, and I just want to go somewhere where it's warm, where the kids have good time, where I have good time, where I have wellness, healthness, and mindfulness, everything combined. And I want to go to one person that says, oh, I've been there, I've seen it all, and I guarantee it will work. And then I'm just completely relaxed on how much money it is, if it's not exceeding an astronomical budget. But it is about smart problem solving. And coming closer to the retail now, it's about the relevance is defined through the experience per square meter, not through the revenue per square meter. This is the old KPI of stores, and that's why most of the stores are doing so badly, because they keep innovating on how can I get more money, how more and more money on this square meter. Forget about this. Just innovate on experience per square meter, and then the revenue will follow through all the different channels that there are in the e-commerce world. And if we just look into the future and try to predict how the travel retail will develop, there's a huge possibility and a huge chance, because people want this problem solving. And if you combine it with digital offers, with experience, like you're surrounded by but the journey you want to make, and it just shows you already, and you can create your own journey with the help of very experienced assistants, then it would be amazing. And especially focused on special needs. It's not all the travels in the world, but it has to be environmental, or it has to be very luxury or very mindfulness. So very narrow, specific interest. So that's what we think it's going to be. And yeah, let's discuss about the future of retail. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Do we have some questions for Nicole from the audience? So I've got a microphone here. If you come up with a question, I've got a couple of questions for you. And it was interesting because you talk about experience. Mm-hmm. And I guess when I think about, and I'm using the sort of a travel agent as an example when I go into a travel agency, and just I'm curious in terms of the audience, who here uses travel agents and goes into a travel agent store to purchase your holiday or your trip? We've got a few, only a couple of people, right? That's interesting. So you've got a job ahead of you to get these people into a retail store. I mean, it's interesting. I come from Australia, and there's a very big, very popular travel agent called Flight Centre, and I think it's in the UK as well. And it's almost on every street corner. It's as popular as sort of Starbucks, and Australians, you know, really go into you know, travel agents to kind of buy their travel. But the question about the experience is, I guess, if I go into a store and I'm buying some clothes, you know, that's kind of a fun experience, but I'm still going to want to put the t-shirt on and make sure that it fits. But the experience of travel is kind of interesting, because when you're selling travel, you're not selling, you know, all the annoying things that happen when you have to get there. You're not selling the experience of having to wait in queue at the TSA, you know, waiting on the plane, on the tarmac, and all those sorts of things that might go wrong in your travel. So do you think the travel experience, when you talk about that, how is that, you know, is this for retail, for travel, is this, and I'm talking about travel agents, is this about like customer acquisition? Is this about getting someone in, inspiring them about a destination, and then kind of you might transact that online later? Or I'm just interested if you could talk a little bit about that.
In the first place, if you have non-physical goods, you sell trust. That's the big criteria, and the people really have to trust those people in the store, that they make the right choice and that they guide you through the process. And the other thing is that we see is we work a lot with native digital companies, but they bridge into the brick and mortar stores, because for them a 1+ area in a city is so much cheaper than a 1+ area at Google. If they want to acquire new customers through Google, they pay much more money than having a flagship store in Oxford Street. And that all of a sudden is a very interesting flip, because as we talked about the retail apocalypse, everybody thought this dying of big change is just progressing and progressing. But now
this is what you talk about, the retail apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the e-commerce people just push into the market now, because for them it's a huge opportunity to be physical and to engage and interact in a one-to-one with customers, and to gain their trust through physical presence.
So are there some examples of travel retail brands that you think get it, or that people should sort of, you know, maybe think about?
The thing is, a lot of fashion brands or like lifestyle brands bridge into this thing. There is, I think, the like travel segment will like mix and blend more and more with other disciplines. What you see with the Soho House. Soho House is a club, it's a hotel. Now they've got stores, they've got co-working spaces, co-living. So it is just everything is fusing around one lifestyle and one community.
Right.
And I think we're going to see that more and more.
So we had Patrick on at the start, and from Skift, and he was talking about some of the mega trends of travel, and one of them was around what Airbnb are doing. And I think Airbnb have invested in developing a hotel that is, you know, you're staying at an Airbnb, and people can own a hotel room, but when they're out of it, it goes on Airbnb. I mean, and we also look at WeWork, you know, which is this sort of co-working space. And there's rumours that they're thinking about building hotels where you live actually in a WeWork. So I mean,
we're building WeWork, so
right.
It's true.
So I mean, what's your take on that kind of thing in terms of like brands like you know, like Airbnb that were completely digital, moving into this, you know, into this space of
it's
tourism?
just basically it's about having a good brand and having like people who follow that brand and have the data inside of your business, and that's why the digital companies are so much more an advantage of everything than like the old world, because they know everything about their customers, and the brick and mortar stores, they know nothing. So they know that people come in and go out, and the one salesperson knows maybe 5 of his clients, but there is no intelligence behind the system using this data, and they have no tools or very limited tools to get more insight into what their customers want or interact with them. And so if you just look at WeWork or at the factory and all those kind of formats, they building communities like Soho House as well.
Okay. Do we have some questions from the audience? We do? Yeah? I'll come down and give you the microphone. Hang on. Here you go.
Thanks so much. So all in all, you're pitching that retail should invest more in experiences than in, selling or revenue per square meter. But I'm just curious because, I mean, it's kind of a risky endeavor, isn't it? If you only focus on experience as a retailer and then the client goes and says, well, thanks so much for the free experience. I'm just, I don't know the example you mentioned, but I'm just gonna, get my strawberry marmalade from Whole Foods or Amazon. Then you're pretty much fucked, huh? Oh, sorry for the link, but I mean that's the problem you have, right? So how can you as a retailer, A, is it the right approach, and B, how can you as a retailer still make the purchase then? Because Amazon and Co and Airbnb and Booking.com, they're so much more convenient than.
You're definitely right. The problem is really if you have physical retail store, there are so many rules people obey to. If you bend those rules, the customer gets completely confused and thrown out of balance. If you have a not working retail system, like a machine working, and you add experience on top, there are actually studies that it doesn't bring any revenue. You gain nothing through this because your customer is defocused and he doesn't know how to deal with this environment if the marmalade is not where it's supposed to be, but on the other side of the room. So, and every time you bend those retail rules, you lose turnover dramatically. So that's why you're completely right. If you do not have your system sussed and your operational goals keeping in order, then experience is not going to help you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Do we have any other questions? If we do, from Bernd. All right. Here we go.
I guess one of the counter examples is actually when I look at Zalando, who has a completely just digitalized business model, and they're then doing this bread and butter festival, which is a consumer festival of style, where they actually go backwards from the digital to the retail experience or to the physical experience. Like, do you have any idea if this is a business case that works? Is it just a brand exercise or is it a commercial exercise?
Well, it's both. Because they try to see how much they can interact with the customer, and if they can bring the customer from the digital experience into the physical world and back. Because if you've been to the bread and butter, you can actually go and you have all those stalls like here with different brands, and you can just use the app and then do shop the whole products. At the moment, it's not really working perfectly. But the thing is, we as human beings are really reluctant to learn new tools. So if we're used to shop, like browse through a lot of clothes and just hang them over my arm and then go to the dressing cabinet, that's the way we like it because we're used to it. So it will take some time till we relearn that there are actually single item presentations, that you scan them, that they're brought to the changing cabin, that you just go there and try them on, and then either you take them with you or you just get them delivered. So we'll have a lot of blended formats, and so I think if they do that a few more years, it will be highly, highly successful.
So it is about the blend of this technology and the physical experience.
Yeah.
So that you're not only being strictly physical and analog or strictly digital, that you actually merge these two technologies, ideally.
We will have everything. So as we see, the examples I brought, you will have completely offline experiences, and that's what they sell. That's what they then sell. They sell quietness, zen, like experiences like tea ceremony. If you ever attended a tea ceremony, it's just the most slowest thing in the world. That is, for somebody who just turned off the iPhone, is killing. So you're willing to buy then deceleration, and you will have retail formats for this. But like Samsung is just open loads of flagship stores, and you can't buy anything there. It's just all digital cave where you feed on the knowledge of Samsung, and then that you have more and more blended formats, but that will be the majority of the verticalized chains like Zara, H&M, and so on.